Tuesday. Good morning. How's everyone today? Welcome in. Getting my devices set up here so I can chat with you. All right, we are live. Happy Tuesday. Oh, Stitch by Christy is doing good. Good, good. So, happy Tuesday. Happy July. And welcome. All right. So I was hoping to have a couple of answers about shipping for you guys, and I've got nothing. Other than what Whatnot has published, which is this document, which they did add some specific um, rates to. So the upcoming changes to USPS shipping on Whatnot, this document, well, I guess it's a document, it's this post in their system. So if you haven't read this fully, go to frequently asked questions or help.whatnot.com and type in upcoming changes, those two words, and you'll find this article. It does now have some specific fees in here. It didn't when they first published it. So it does have that, and it has some information about that. And as far as over 5 pounds, it says these things. And so let me tell you what I think that means. And I do have an opportunity tomorrow to ask some specific questions to some Whatnot employees, but I don't know that they are necessarily going to know the answers either, because they are not the people in that are doing these things, that are in charge of shipping. Um, so, is Andy in the house? Are you here, Andy? Yeah, I can't believe it's July either. So, I do have a chance to ask some questions. I'm hoping that when they give us the final details, that it does have some very specific information so that we know some things. But one thing that it does say in here is that it encourages you to use custom shipping profiles with max bundle limits to keep shipments under 5 pounds. Why would they say that unless the alternative is that when it flips to 5 pounds, well, when it flips to 5 pounds, it's saying in here that it goes to commercial rates, because it does specify in here, and it gives a link that once someone's order hits 5 pounds, if you don't have it set up to um, bundle it and then flip to another order, that it's going to flip to commercial ground advantage. It says heavier packages, 5 to 70 pounds, will be charged USPS commercial rates. And it gives a link, and you can go and see what those are. And from what I can tell, um, like if they bought 5 pounds and you have it set for 'em to unbundle and then start charging them for another package or another order, it's I mean, it's going to do these same rates up until it hits another pound, and then it's going to do another 720 until it hits 5 pounds. So if you have it set to do that, then the most they're going to pay for 10 pounds is 1440, because the 1 to 5 pound rate will be 720. And if you look at the commercial rates on here, when they hit, let's see, when they hit 10 pounds, about zone 5 is more than um, $14. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? So you would want their rate to be the lower rates every 5 pounds. Um, what I don't have answers to yet is, are we going to continue to have our 5 free adjustments? I don't have a definitive answer for that. I have had people tell me that they were told we are still going to be able to enter a buyer pays max and do the reduced shipping, but there's no like set, what would you max it out at? I guess you could max it out at 720, but then you're going to, as the seller, pay if they order more than 5 pounds if you have it set that way. So I kind of feel like we're being boxed in, that we're being forced to have to sell um, based on, like we can't just let people buy, that we are forced to have to sell in a way that people will only buy X amount of stuff, because then on the back end, it's going to make it hard to afford to ship it. I think, I mean, it's going to affect everybody. It's going to affect all sellers, the big volume sellers. Um, People just won't buy as much, and unless they can offer, and it's going to be hard for them to be able to afford to pay that much extra in shipping. Plus, it's just like with flat rate. In order to not be charged the higher commercial ground advantage, you're still going to want to have it. You cannot opt out and ship independently. You are required to fulfill your orders through Whatnot, because that's how they track that you've shipped it, and that when they have, I know on other platforms you can maybe fulfill it yourself and put in a tracking number, but Whatnot is not allowing that. Um, so, and then the other question is, you should be able to, um, well, what I was saying is it makes sense that you would still want to have it unbundle at 5 pounds, because then you, as the seller, whether you're putting in a buyer pays max or not, then you're still only going to pay 720 every 5 pounds instead of the higher commercial ground advantage rates. Why would Whatnot benefit from reduced buying? It doesn't make sense. I, yeah, I don't know. And that's, again, that's another thing. I don't really see the big picture. But I don't think they had a choice. I think the Postal Service, that's my opinion. I think the Postal Service said to flat rate. So they're pushing everybody to ground advantage, because honestly, they can't even really get priority there much faster because the volume was too insane for them. So it was kind of hard for them to offer um, priority to everybody um, that was on the commercial accounts. They would probably rather reserve that for re for the just the average customer that walks in and wants to mail something, right? Because then it actually is a priority service. But if everybody um, commercially is using priority and priority flat rate, then there's too much mail. They can't handle the volume. So I don't think Whatnot had a choice. I could be wrong, but I don't think they did. I think that was, they were told no more. And if you watch what the post office is doing right now, they are heavily advertising ground advantage for business on social media. So it makes sense. Good morning. Good morning. Let's see. I have another question here. How do you ship for 921? Well, right now, 921, you have to set your settings for 1 to 5 pounds and 5 pounds and over flat rate. And then it gives the customer $9.21. maxed out because you have it set for both flat rate, flat rate. But flat rate is going away effective no sooner than August 1st. So, um, yeah, flat rate has been the easy button. I agree. So we're going to have to learn a new way. Um, and that's what most other platforms are going to is Ground Advantage. The problem is that they don't sell in the volumes that we do. So, you go on Bay, Posh, Mercari, the other platforms, people go in and buy one or two items from a seller in a single transaction. Rarely do they buy the amount of stuff that people buy on Whatnot in one show. And so it's a whole different, we're selling in volume. Um, and especially in the category I sell in, most people, I mean, probably about half of my orders, um, they buy less than 5 pounds, but then the other half buy more than 5 pounds. And so we'll just see. I honestly was thinking this morning, to mitigate this, we have to at least set our settings so that it will unbundle at 5 pounds. That's what I would advise everybody to do. And then let's see how it rolls out. And hopefully they give us some more information, some more specifics. The things that I asked for specifically are we still going to get our 5 free adjustments? 2, are we still going to be able to set a max that buyers will pay for reduced shipping? I heard again that some people were told yes on that one. Third, um, they need to be more explicit about what packages can measure and weigh. Well, weight is pretty defined, but dimensions, because the dimensions of 12 by 12 by 12 had to do with priority and flat rate. That was the max for that class of shipping. The max dimensions for Ground Advantage is 130 inches. So, but if you look at the Ground Advantage chart, so I'm on the Postal Service website. Here's what it says. For parcels that measure in combined length and girth more than 108 inches, but not more than 130, use oversized prices regardless of weight based on the applicable zone. So it's now 108 inches, but not more than 130. Use oversized prices. So that's telling me that 108 inches total girth is the max, because then we're going to get an oversized charge if it's more than that. Am I reading that correct? So, and then it says dimension non-compliance fee, add $3. Parcels that are 22 inches but not greater than 30, add $4.50. Parcels that exceed 30 inches in length, add 10. So you cannot go longer on any side of your box 22 inches, because then it's going to get charged extra. So I think this is what we're going to have to comply with as far as dimensions of the box. So again, this is following the link um, in the Whatnot article. If you go in the Whatnot article, see how it says heavier packages 5 to 70 pounds will be charged USPS commercial rates. You click that link, and that takes you to this. And then here is the dimensions, and here's all the commercial rates, which are based on zones. Now we're being told here that the zone rate does not apply for the 1 to 5, because 1 to 5 pounds, we're going to be doing 720 regardless of the zones. Okay, so that's why they're saying as much as possible unbundle at the 5 pound mark because then you're not subject to all these other rules. Although it's still ground advantage, so I think you are still going to be subject to the 108 max girth. So that's what I was asking. We need to know that definitively so that we aren't in trouble, because you're not going to be able to send a package that's longer than 22 inches without an extra charge. And then I think the max girth is 108, not 130, because they're saying um that the 108 to 130 is oversized price. So parcels that exceed 1 cubic foot, that's where we get the 12 by 12 by 12. So now it looks to me like 12 by 12 by 12 is the, does 108 combined length girth equal the same as 1 cubic foot? Oh, and here's another thing that I saw. The post office is now going to round up instead of round down. So yes, so East Coast just said this. They're going to round up. So if you have a box before, if you had a box that was 12 and a quarter, less than 12 and a quarter, it would round down to 12. Now it's going to round up. So you've got to keep it under that measurement. Okay. So yeah, I don't know, you guys. I kind of feel like we're gonna have to do the, put your custom profiles in, keep everything under 5 pounds, and then see how it rolls out. And don't go over 22 inches long, because then you're gonna get charged an extra 450. And you are gonna have to put your measurements in. It's gonna force you to put the box measurements in. And now that Whatnot is going to charge you for, so remember that on your shipping page, if you go to, let me just open a new window here. If you go to your shipping page and look at, let me find it here, carrier adjustments. So it's under shipments, carrier adjustments. So go look at that page. Good morning. Um, yeah, I don't really honestly, Lovely Pinto, have a whole lot to tell you other than really deep dive that article that I sent you the link to, and go look at the page on that it links you to the post office, and read this whole, I know this is boring, but read this whole side part of the USPS Ground Advantage commercial rates. Read this whole side section, because it tells you everywhere they're going to add money if your package is more than certain dimensions. Um, and then it has some other things about what you can or can't send in packages. Okay. But anyway, on your shipping page, so this is under, so right here, shipments, carrier adjustments. They've told us also that they're going to start charging us if the Postal Service scanned a package that was, outside of what you said it was. It doesn't match the label. Okay. So you can see here, I don't have any charges for, and they're doing it by like every 30 days, so May 10th to June 9th. So I didn't have any, but you can see there is one in here from February where they're saying the scanned weight did not match the label, and that Whatnot covered $1.43 in charges. So somehow I missed, we sent a package overweight or something than what the label was. All right. So if you aren't sending everything exactly correct, you're going to start getting charged this for every time that the post office says you sent something where the scanned weight did not match the label. All right. So you've got to put in your box dimensions, and you've got to make sure that you weigh it in the package before you send it, and that the label matches the package weight. So you've got to have a good scale that's accurate. And to be safe, I would always over, an ounce or two than under. And that's the other thing, with when you're dealing with this limit of 5 pounds, that includes the packaging. So you're going to have to include packaging weight in your shipments. So don't oversell and be over that 5 pounds when you go to pack it up. So you're going to have to really be tight on that. Story of home. I'm having trouble finding clear instructions on how to unbundle at 5 pounds in the settings. Do these instructions exist? So um, you need to go to the article about unbundling. Let me open a new window here. Let's see. So I'm just going to go into what not frequently asked questions. So go to all right. So I'm going to I'm going to look up custom shipping profiles, because that's really the only way that you can do it. Let's see. All right, so there's an article titled "Create." Well, it's actually within the actual. It's in the inside the other shipping, but create a custom shipping profile in the app or on the web. It's into, so let's say we're going to do it here. So you go to from the app, tap Seller Hub, tap Menu, shipping profiles, tap the plus, fill out the profile details, save. That's all it tells us. So this is what it says in here. So it says to give it a name, choose something you'll recognize, enter the total weight of one item, including the packaging, and choose the unit of measurement. So if you have, your first item, including the weight of that item and the packages, they're saying 20 ounce. This is their example, 20 ounces. Then your bundling options, you can set how many items can ship together, or you can set a fixed weight for additional items. So I think what we're going to want to do is this: set a fixed weight for additional items. So if your first item is, let's say we're dealing with fabric, a yard of fabric would be 5 ounces, but not including packaging, you're probably going to want to do it at 6. If you're planning on a poly mailer, which you would plan on if someone buys one item, right? You're probably going to ship it in a poly mailer. So add an ounce for the poly mailer, or, make sure you weigh your poly mailers and see how much they weigh. So then we would, excuse me, 5 ounces here. And then in the fixed weight for additional items, then you would do, make it so that it maxes out at 5 pounds. So you would say that it can have up to, so if your first one was 6 and you want it to max out at about 75 ounces, 76 ounces to be safe. So a 5-pound package is 80 ounces, right? So then you would have, so you would have 80. We're going to subtract that our poly mailer, let's say that it weighs 3 ounces because we're using bigger, thicker ones. So we have 77 ounces. We're going to do 5 ounces for the first item. Whoops. Okay, so we have 77. Then we're going to subtract our 5 ounces for the first, or let's do 6 ounces, sorry. 6 ounces for the first, I don't know, five because we included the package weight in there. So sorry, I'm confusing everybody. Minus the 5 ounces. So we have 72 ounces left to get us to that. So then you would put that you can allow up to 72 more ounces before it will max out. That's how I'm reading it. And then, so let me go to that screen. Let's see. So if we go to, one second, let me get this opened up. Okay, shipping profiles. Sorry, it's kind of slow. Shipping profiles. Okay, so we're on the shipping profile. We're going to create a shipping profile. And this is on web version that you're watching me do this, okay? So we're going to call this I don't know, 5-pound max fabric. Okay. And we're going to have item weight is going to be 6, and I'm going to change pounds to ounces. So that's a yard of fabric plus the weight of my packaging. Now I'm going to set a fixed weight, and I'm going to say that it can add up to 72 more ounces. And I'm going to change this to ounces, right? So that means 5-pound max, 6 ounces is the first item, and then it allows up to 72 more ounces. So then I'm going to have, and I probably want to put this as a 1 yard. And then I probably want to create, um, no, I need them all to come to this same listing. So it needs to just be a 5-pound. Um, yeah. So probably your first item needs to be like 4 ounces, and then you're adding, that's my guess, 4 ounce. Because then if you have every single listing, if you're selling a yard, it says it's 6 ounces. It's going to put 6 ounces towards that 72 ounces. Does that make sense? I think that will work. Yeah, that's why I was saying if your first purchase is a fat quarter, I think you're going to want to just start it at, 4 ounces, because everything that, including packaging weight, that you would maybe sell. I mean, a fat quarter is only like 2 ounces, but including packaging weight for your first item, because you've got to have the package weight in there, right? So you've got to have the poly mailer, the packing slip, the label, if you include a plastic bag. I mean, you're right around 4 ounces, right? And so if you put 4 ounces your first item weight, and then put a fixed weight, 72 plus 4 is going to put us at 76. That gives you a cushion of about 4 extra ounces. If you're going to add, it just gives you that cushion. I think that will work. You're just going to have to be super careful that you weigh everything. You weigh everything and you sell it under a listing that is the accurate weight. Because I don't see any way around not doing that, right? Can I put stickers in my bin? Well, you can rewatch this on my YouTube, so you don't have to buy anything. So if you look in my show notes, the third paragraph has a little talking head, and it says, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Draz on Whatnot. I multicast onto YouTube. So if you want to buy something, that's fine. Let me see what I have in my bin. I don't know what I have in there. There are some stickers in there that you can buy for $2 if you want to. But again, you can just rewatch this on YouTube. Oh, well, that's sweet of you, but you don't need to buy anything. So, I mean, if you want to support me financially, send me a tip because I don't, it doesn't bother me, but you don't have to do that either. So, oh, well, thank you, lovely. You didn't have to do that. I don't, you guys, I do this partly to, it does help me as a seller to be able to provide this service just because I get, it's for everybody, but I'm doing this for the collective. I mean, we all need help. It helps me, it helps all of you. I'm happy with that. So, yeah, I don't do this for money. If I was trying to make money doing these seller chats, I would sell time, I would sell, promote, and I don't do that because I don't think that's right. So I don't do those like, buy a gift card for $50 to send someone a $25 gift card. That grates on me. I don't agree with that practice. So yeah. The Fabric Mama did first fabric show on Sunday. Congrats, welcome. Hopefully it went well. Keep in mind it is the slowest month of sales for the whole year. July is the slowest month. So everybody that's freaking out about how slow things are or people are not bidding things up, it's just the slowest month. And it doesn't help that, you know, gas prices are up. Every other day, the Strait of Hormuz is open and then it's not. And gas prices go like this, and interest rates go like this. And it's crazy times. So, you know, hold on. It's a roller coaster ride. It'll always get worse before it gets better. So, and reselling is not for the weak. If you are, if you're here just casually destashing every once in a while and you don't have to ride the roller coaster, great, have fun. If you are doing this full time or trying to do this full time, you know, this is not easy. This is not a get rich quick. This is a work your butt off, flip, and have to be able to change directions every 5 minutes kind of thing. The benefits of it are you don't have to work for someone else. Um, you get to be your own boss. You have lot flexibility with hours and schedules and all that kind of stuff. And you get to have fun being live on Whatnot, making friends and selling something that you're passionate about. So there's a lot of pluses, but it's hard work. So yeah, if you have a 7-Eleven, sign up for text and get 50 cents off per gallon on the 7th and the 11th. Oh, do they do that? I didn't know that. That's a good deal. Was this about shipping today? Because I'd like to rewatch. How do I rewatch? We probably went over. Yeah. So in the show notes, the well, there's a welcome. And then anyway, it's the fourth thing down in the show notes. There's a little talking head. That's my YouTube account. And you can just go to YouTube and rewatch it. Okay. So let me just show you on here. So open up YouTube. All right, so we're here on the magical YouTube, which is a um, maze of everything on the planet, right? You're going to tap the little search bar on YouTube, and then you're going to type in my name, which is Draz and Whatnot, but use the ampersand in front. So type in at Draz on Whatnot, the whole thing, and I'll show you why. Okay, so when you type that in, it's still going to bring up other content here, but it directly takes you to me. And see how I have the same logo? So just tap that. because you're now in my account. And please subscribe, that helps me out. And then you're going to see, here I am right here live. This is this show live on YouTube. And once it is no longer live, it goes down to here. So from it'll be a previous show. So make sure you click on the live. So right now it's on home page for me, but see how it's home, videos, shorts, and live. You'll click on live. So here's all the live streams. Okay. So you can rewatch this show on my YouTube account. All right. And thank you for asking that. So everyone can go and rewatch it there. But we were just talking about, I have no answers right now about whether or not we still get the 5 free adjustments. I don't know if we're still going to be able to put in a max, although I've heard other people asked and got the answer that that will be yes. But it kind of doesn't make sense what you'll put in there unless you're going to be willing to pay everything above 720. You could put a max 720 and they get their 1 to 5 pound and then hit free shipping. And then if you allow more purchases, it will unbundle it and you'll pay anything above that 720. But that's up to you. You could put a buyer pays max 14, and then the most they're going to pay is for 10 pounds if you have it set that way. So, it's up to you. But please, please, please go read the article that is the upcoming shipping changes. So it's this article on help.whatnot.com or frequently asked questions called upcoming changes to USPS shipping. To find it, just type upcoming changes. It will link you to it. So here is the information. And what I was pointing out is that they are saying pretty definitively in here, when possible, you need to, it says packaging weighing 1 to 5 pounds will now be this new 720 rate, which is 685 plus the fees. And it says in here, when possible, have it unbundle at 5 pounds. Where does it say that? If you regularly ship heavy packages, consider using custom shipping profiles with max bundle limits to keep shipments under 5 pounds. So they're encouraging you to do that. And then it tells you that it will be commercial rates for anything over 5 pounds, but it will never hit that if you automatically have it bundle into 5 pound shipments. So if someone buys 5 pounds and then they're still shopping and want to buy 5 more pounds or whatever, then it will just, if you set it up the way I was talking about, then you can have it hit the 5 pounds. They keep shopping and it incrementally charges them again up to the 720. And then it should, if, in theory, if this works the way it's set up, it should then have them have 2 orders. So you'll have an order of the 5 pounds they bought first, and then if they bought, let's say they bought 3 pounds, that's still in the 1 to 5 pound range. It will be a separate unbundled order that you'll put in a different package. So no longer will you you know, they won't be bundled all together in one package if you set it up to unbundle. But you have to do that by using custom shipping profiles. So, and that's the other thing on here, right above where it says the heavier packages, it says use custom shipping profiles and bundle limits to help keep shipments at or below 5 pounds when possible. Okay. And then we were looking at this is the link when you follow this link to whoops, sorry. Follow this link to the commercial rates. It takes you to this. This is on the Postal Service website. Pay attention to this information over here about the size that your parcels can be. So they're saying parcels that measure in combined length and girth. So girth, it's basically all three sides. So you take a package and measure all three sides of the package. We're all four. So let me show you what girth means, just so there's no confusion. Define girth. Okay, the definition of girth is um, 2 times the width plus the height. So right here, see that? 2 times the width plus height. So you would, because it's basically measuring all four sides of anything. Okay, so that's your girth. So on here, it's saying that your combined length and girth needs to be less than 108 inches, because anything 108 but not more than 130 uses oversized prices. So, and then it just finds in here what that is. So dimension $3, non-compliance fee, add $3. So it sounds to me like if you go over 108 total girth, they're going to charge you an extra $3. And then it says if you exceed 22 inches in length, it's going to be an extra $4.50. And if it's over 30 inches, they're going to add $10. And then it says parcels that exceed 2 cubic feet or 3,456 cubic inches add $21. All right, leave it up to the government to make this super complicated, right? This is what our taxpayer dollars get us. Very confusing. Yeah, math. I hate math too. I know my brain falls out every time I read through this stuff, and I'm just like, can we make this easy? Seriously? That's what was so great about flat rate, honestly. It was like if it fits in the dang box, it ships. So yeah, this is gonna be hard, you guys. It's gonna be hard because we have to comply with all of this. Um, and I'm asking again, I'm assuming because we're now using ground advantage that we have to comply with these ground advantage rules. And these changed because it was 130 max. It's now 108. 108 to 130 is an oversize. Yeah. Well, I don't think they had a choice, Margaret. I think that the post office was overwhelmed. I mean, Whatnot just hit 1 billion in sales. That's a lot of packages. So I'm pretty sure it was the post office saying to flat rate anymore, because flat rate really was priority was becoming a not priority because they had the volume was so high that there was no difference in delivery time, right? So yeah, yeah. So, I yeah, we'll see. I do know that Whatnot keeps saying they're trying to investigate other shipping services, but this is what we have right now. And so, fingers crossed that we get some other options soon so that it makes more sense. But keep in mind, other options can complicate it even more sometimes. Because, see, here's the problem with, not the problem, here's the challenge we have on Whatnot. Um, the challenge we have is that we're an auction site where people can come and buy one item or 50 items in a single show. And there's no way to predict whether they're going to buy one or 50, right? We have no clue. When we go live, I mean, how many of you've had you go live, and most of the time people buy one to, let's say, 1 to 10 items, right? And then you have a show and you have one person who's just like buy happy, or they got $3,000 for their birthday or something, and they buy 50 items. It happens, especially if you're doing some good deals, right? You have no control over that. And so, how do you predict that for shipping, and how does Whatnot, to their credit, how do they predict that? They can't predict that any better than you can. So, how do you deal with that? Well, you have to have some kind of, structure so that it unbundles it, and people do have to pay the shipping. I mean, everybody knows it's not free. Somebody has to pay for it. So either you as the seller have to pay for it, or the buyer has to pay for it. And they pay for it whether you, even if you offer free shipping, free shipping isn't free because you're building it into the cost of your items, right? So it gets paid for one way or the other. So yeah, buyers' expectations have to be reasonable. Um, but they get used to it. And the Amazon way has kind of spoiled people, because people think, oh, Amazon is free shipping. No, it's not. You're paying for Amazon Prime, and that goes up every year practically, right? So there's no such thing as free shipping. And I think the expectation is, you just tell people it's still a really good rate. Where else, can you go and buy a box full of stuff that weighs 5 pounds for $7.20? That's going to be the new rate. Yeah, it's not going to be Max 921 unless you want to keep using Max 921, because that was the flat rate fee. That's going away. So you're going to have to decide if we still get to have a max, which I've been told other people have asked and have said yes, there will still be a way to put in a buyer pays max. But you're going to have to decide what makes sense for you, because 921 is no longer a flat rate max, right? The new rate for 5 pounds is $7.20. But if you used that and they buy more than 5 pounds, and you have it unbundling at 5 pounds, then and they buy more, you're going to, as the seller, pay everything in excess of the 720. Okay. Rumors, UPS may be getting involved. Can I confirm either way? That rumor's been around a long time. And I mean, they said that it's a priority for them to try and get some other shipping options. Have I heard anything definitive? No. Do you think people should stop doing max shipping? No, because if you can get that reduced shipping banner, okay, so here's the mentality. I mean, you have to admit you're this way too, right? You go shopping and you look at the shipping charge as part of the total. The lower that shipping total is, the more people are incentivized to buy. So, it is a thing. It is a thing. Yeah, and we all loved the free boxes. But that's apparently going away, and no definitive answer as to whether or not we can take advantage of the free ground advantage boxes that the Postal Service does have. I have heard some people say that commercial accounts can order those, but Whatnot has not said, and in fact, they're saying the opposite in their article. Their article says, um, you will need to switch to alternative packaging, meaning provide your own packaging. So they have not made a deal for us to use the Ground Advantage packaging that is available. So yeah. Yes, Whatnot did offer UPS for as a trial, for some sellers. It was like a beta test. and then it went away. So I don't know what happened with that. Um, so yeah, but it may, we may get some other options. Hopefully, we will. Andy is here. I wanted to ask you, Andy, did you get yours resolved when you had that show that it seemingly was charging you the new rates? How did that work out? Tell us in chat because I'm curious about that because I have seen on social media a couple of other people say that happened to them as well. Like maybe their shipping profile got updated to something else. I don't know. So I do have an opportunity tomorrow to ask directly to some Whatnot employees some of these questions. I don't know if I'm going to get any answers because we deal with the community support team. They don't always know the inner workings of, they have to ask too. Your rates were changed as well, but I fixed it before I made a label. Okay, so what goes around yours? So they bundled the customer shipments and they gave me a credit for some of the giveaways. Okay, so they went in and bundled the shipments. So did they refund the oh, but you had it set at max 921, right? So you got charged everything over the max 921. So they gave you a credit for the giveaways for some of them, and they bundled the customer shipments and then you sent them in flat rates. Okay, but did you still lose money on that because of that? Because that's not really fair, I don't think. But so yes, okay. So if that happens to you, at least they're going to go in and help you fix the shipping, and hopefully they realize that was happening and it's not happening to people anymore. Um, yeah, that's not cool. So sorry for any of you that had that happen. Make sure you message customer service and and figure that out. Lost an adjustment. Oh, you lost an adjustment over it. Yeah. Well, and that's fine. I mean, I don't mind, if we still have some adjustments, but, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is I feel like read this through and do exactly what they say that you should be doing because that's probably your best bet. And it does have in here that they have private shows set up with the new shipping. So if you schedule a private show, you can actually try this out. So that's a tip they have in here. See how it says tip, you can preview shipping costs and test your shipping setup using private shows. Keep in mind that transactions made during a private show are real. So if you want to, have a private show and invite, you know, friends and family, I mean, it's not a bad idea to try it out and see how it's going to work in real time before you go live with it. Um, I might do it myself just to make sure how feel like it's going to work once I set up some custom profiles. So I would definitely set up those custom profiles and use it in a private show to make sure it does that unbundling for you. Uh, yeah. Yes. So if the package is over 5 pounds, they want you to send 2 packages. Yep. That's basically what they're saying is, I mean, they're saying in here, this is the verbiage again. Let me read it to you. Use custom shipping profiles and bundle limits to help keep shipments at or below 5 pounds when possible. What does that say to you? It says to me that they're saying try and sell people 5 pounds or less. And then it says heavier packages will be charged the commercial rates based on weight and distance and any additional fees. And then I showed you that chart right? And then it says in here, um, review your item weights and shipping profiles. Accurate weights will be more important once flat rate shipping is removed. So that old way of just using the ranges of weight, I would not recommend doing that anymore. I think you need to have it pretty exact and use those custom shipping profiles, so that you don't get into trouble with this. And again, it's stated again, replace priority mail packaging to ship with Ground Advantage. So you need to use your own packing materials for Ground Advantage. Oh, and another thing in here too is all those flat rate or priority mail packs that you have, if you're no longer going to use them, you cannot use them to send Ground Advantage. You can't turn them up. You can't turn them inside out. They're labeled. You can't cheat and try and put them in a poly mailer. They will catch you. And it says in here, if you're caught doing that, they are going to charge you $20 per incident, and it will be charged to your Whatnot account balance. So don't try to use the flat rate or priority packages by turning them wrong side out. They're labeled on the inside anyway, right? If you take a flat rate box and open it and look inside, it's labeled on the inside for that reason. So don't use the flat rate and the priority mail packages to send a Ground Advantage package. Don't also try to use them and put them inside a poly mailer. I think you're okay if you're upcycling old ones that have already been used, but maybe don't even risk that because they're going to be watching for it. And all those that you have, just take them back to the post office and put them back. If your post office has a display with the flat rate packages, just take them and put them back in the shelf so they can use them for someone else. Don't throw them away up, do that. If your post office doesn't have a display and they won't take them at the desk, I don't know what to do with them. But yeah, I wouldn't throw them away. Upcycle them, I guess, at the very least, if you have an upcycling. Yeah. So my post office has a display. They have two different displays, one out in the lobby that's outside the locked door when they're closed, and one inside the lobby. So, any that I have left, I'm just going to take back. So, you know, that is the case. And I'm leaning towards mostly doing poly mailers, even for bigger packages. You just now are going to have to keep it under 22 inches long to avoid the fees. So anything over 22 inches on any of the measurements is going to get a let's see, it says parcels that exceed 22 inches will get charged an extra $4.50. So you don't want to have to pay that. It'll add it right into the Whatnot fee. What mill do you recommend for large fabric orders? Um, I I don't know the exact mill of the ones that I have, but I have these really thick, heavy poly bags that I would guess they're probably at least 3, if not 4 mil, and they're pretty tear resistant and hard to puncture. And then again, the key is put your fabric in a liner bag inside the package so that if the outside packaging gets torn, it's still in a plastic bag inside. I think it's going to be a little less, um, I don't know. We'll see how it turns out, but the boxes get beat up, right? Poly mailers don't get as beat up because it's getting mailed with poly mailers and you don't have the sharp edges and the weight of other boxes, on the packaging. So I think poly mailers are actually going to improve the problem we've been having with people's packaging getting so torn up because those boxes just get beat to heck. I think that's probably another reason that the post office is probably dictating this, because the volume of boxes was just getting out of control for them. I mean, it takes a lot of room in a truck to stack boxes, but you can fit a lot of poly mailers in a bin, right? So I think that that's going to improve the quality of shipping because everything's just in poly mailers. They slide, but they can put them in big bins. And so they have a way to kind of mitigate that. They just have big bins full of poly mailers versus boxes that you have to stack that take up a lot more room. So, yeah. I don't know. We'll see, you guys. We'll see. So, but I have some specific questions I asked that I'm hoping to get some answers to. Um, Let me read to you what I asked specifically. I asked this. Let me find my post. So here was the question that I asked. Do we still get the 5 free shipping adjustments? That was my number 1 question. My number 2, will we still be able to enter a buyer's max and have a reduced shipping banner? That was number 2. Number 3, will the 1 to 5 pound 720 ground rate still be subject to the 12 by 12 by 12 max, 1 cubic foot, 1728 cubic inches? And from what I'm reading on the UPS website, if we're still, subject to those rules, which I wouldn't see why we wouldn't, the answer to that is probably absolutely yes. Okay. Um, and then I asked about what the max girth is, which it used to be 130 inches. Now I think reading their website, it's 108 is the max before you get charged extra. So I think that's a little bit less. Then I asked if a package is over 5 pounds and defaults to the Ground Advantage commercial rates. As the updated information states, can the verbiage clearly state that so that people know? Because before, when we had the other rates, nowhere on Whatnot's website did it tell you couldn't exceed certain dimensions. So I'm telling them, you've got to tell people those exact things so people aren't confused why they're getting charged all these extra fees. Even though it's on the Postal Service website and people should be able to click the link and go there, if you don't state it in the information on Whatnot, I think that's going to be a problem. And then I said, let's see. I asked about the dimensions and everything, what those are going to be. I'm assuming if it just defaults to the commercial rates, we have to comply with exactly what it says on the Postal Service um, website. So there we go. That's what I asked. Polymailer sweat. I have used dryer sheets and O2 absorbers. Do you have other suggestions? I think if you do live in a humid area, and you feel like that's going to be an issue because you're sending fabric from a humid area to other parts of the country and it's sitting in hot trucks, then yeah, you might want to include that. I live where it's very dry, so I haven't had any complaints. But I do know I have received fabric from sellers who live in really humid climates. And during the summer, I got some in plastic bags that if it had sat for much longer, it would have been a problem. So if you live somewhere really humid and you think that's going to be an issue, you may want to consider, putting the O2 absorbers. You can buy them in bulk for cheap, right? I would just slip it in with the fabric inside the plastic bag so that it absorbs any of the moisture. But because I live somewhere super dry, I haven't worried about it because my fabric coming from my climate is super dry and I'm putting it in a plastic bag. It's not going to absorb moisture, sealed in a bag. So they're going to open it dry. But if you have it in a moist climate, you may want to do that. That's what I would say about that. So you're going to have to decide. I haven't really had any that I got that I was like, that I felt like it was going to mildew. I think only if it had, if I had kept it stored, sealed in the bag for too much longer, I would have been, it would have been a problem. So the free shipping goes away. What do you mean by free shipping? You can still offer free shipping. I think you're going to still be able to click on that if you want to offer free shipping. But is the once they hit a certain max, the flat rate is what's going away. Flat rate packaging is going away. You will no longer be able to use the flat rate shipping boxes and send stuff priority flat rate. That's going away. Priority actually will still be there if people want to send stuff priority. So maybe the people who are selling bougie high-end designer bags, they're going to want to have priority still turned on and send priority because it does get there 1 day sooner, supposedly. And it's an upcharge, but the people who are buying from them will have to pay the higher priority rates. It won't be discounted. It will just be regular commercial priority rates. So, yeah, the cheaper rate for shipping on whatnot is now 1 to 5 pounds ground advantage, and it will be $7.20 for 1 to 5 pounds in a ground advantage package, which is your own packaging, a poly mailer, or your own supplied boxes. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Let me just sort and make sure I didn't miss stuff. If I did, I apologize. Our post office, oh, Doll Close says our post office got bigger vehicles. Interesting. Do you have a list of items you buy for shipping fabric? Not really, because I was using flat rate boxes. And then I had poly mailers that I used for my shipping that was under a pound. Um, and then I have labels. That's pretty much what I used. So the thermal labels. And the ones that I was using, the ones that I'm still using for under a pound they're just a nice thick mill black poly mailer. I made the decision, even though it's fun to get cute poly mailers, for the cost of my business, I use generic plain black. I like the black ones because they they're just kind of nondescript. They're not an enticement to see what's in this. They don't stand out, and I feel like they're safe and they're a nice ply and they don't tear. I know that seems boring, but I think my customers would rather get their stuff intact and safely rather than in a cute floofy package. That's my opinion. So that's what I'm sticking with. So it's kind of boring, but it gets it there. It does the job. They get what they paid for. So let's see. Sunshine Lane. Wonder if you could wrap them in brown craft paper. The answer to that would be again no, because if they can tell it's one of their boxes, because they know the dimensions, they're going to peak. And if you're using the flat rate packages, you will get charged $20 to your Whatnot account for every instance where you used their free boxes. So don't risk it. Let's see. Yeah, you can definitely build in. Margaret is saying there's a cost for postage, and I think buyers should add handling charges, which would mean supplies and time. You mean sellers? So yeah, you have to build into your business model whatever your shipping costs are. So if you have to now buy poly mailers and boxes, you're going to need to adjust your pricing because you're now paying for more for the shipping supplies. Um, where can we get good poly mailers? Yeah, you pack and ship has good prices. Honestly, they recommended Uline. I think Uline's too expensive. I actually source the ones I use for my under 1 pound through Amazon. I have them on subscription because on subscription you get the cheaper rate and you buy them in big bulk. The more you buy, the cheaper the price per unit. You decide what works for you, based on your volume of sales. Um, yeah. But yeah, you pack and ship has good prices. Let's see. Yeah, the dimension charges will be effective as of 8/1, as far as I know. That's what I was going over on that side part of um, that article for ground advantage. So again, let me just show you this again really quick. In the article for the updated shipping titled Upcoming Changes, let me just go back to all. So this is the article, Upcoming Changes to USPS Shipping on Whatnot. You get to this article, you got an email, hopefully. If you didn't get the email, just go to frequently asked questions or help.whatnot.com and type in upcoming changes and you'll find this article. Seriously read this pay attention to what everything says on here. And they do have links. What's changing, what you need to do, frequently asked questions. Let's see where it takes us to that. Go live no earlier than August 1st. It does say you won't need to update your shipping settings, meaning the settings where, it's like 1 to 5 pounds. It will automatically take effect. And you'll be able to review it. It says you'll be notified and have time to review. You can still use priority, but not flat rate. If you select priority, though, it will be, the higher priority rates. You cannot use the flat rate boxes anymore for any reason. Don't try to disguise them and reuse them. Just take them back to the post office when you're done using them. We still do get to use the envelopes for first class mail letter, although the rate is going up by 4 cents on July 12th. So you can still mail stickers, cards, the stuff that you were mailing in envelopes, trading cards, stickers in the envelopes. Okay. Anyway, so use this article to go through and really figure out what they're going to do. All right. Any other questions other than shipping? I need to go. I've got to go do my shipping from last night's show. If you haven't already bookmarked today's show, we're doing authentic feed sack. As long as I get enough bookmarks. Let me look and see where I'm at for bookmarks on that show. Because I can't afford to sell feed sack for nothing. Looks like we have 81 bookmarks. So yeah, if you want feed sack fabrics, come today, 2:29 Mountain Time. Yes, custom listings are going to be the key. I'm going to sit down and write it out on paper, enter them, double check them. I might have a private show. If I do, I'll invite, all my peeps to come and let's, see how it works because I'll have you tell me what the shipping shows. I'll sell some stuff for $1 to have everybody try it out. And yeah, so if you want to be, I'll probably do it. If I do one, I'll probably do it the last, well, maybe around the 25th-ish, somewhere in there. Maybe we can do it like late night sometime and just have everybody that wants to kind of test it out. Um, I'll just sell some stuff for $1 or something and see how it goes. So yeah, I'll invite anyone that wants to come to that. I'll mention it again. I didn't get, do I have another morning chat show scheduled? Let me look and see what my schedule is. We're in the process of trying to move, and so I haven't been doing my regular walk and talks. So Tuesday morning next week is when I'll do this next. Yeah, I have one on the schedule. So Tuesday the 14th, bookmark that show. It's on my schedule right here. And by then, hopefully, I might have some answers because, again, like I said, I have a chance tomorrow to talk directly with some Whatnot employees and if they have some answers to some of those questions I asked. Okay. How is the move going? Well, we have our house on the market and it's kind of slow in Utah. It's weird because Utah has been one of the hottest markets for the last 10 years. When I moved back to Utah, I was born and raised in Utah, and then I've lived mostly in Arizona. And then more recently, we were in Washington. In 2020, we moved from Washington State to Utah. And when you moved here, you had to, if you found a house, you had to put an immediate offer, full price or better, and hope that you got it. And I actually only got the house that we're living in right now because the people knew my mom and knew my family, and they chose us over cash offer. Otherwise, I don't know how I would have even gotten a house. That's how crazy it was. But since then, the market has become a more balanced market. And so buyers can be a lot pickier. And because the interest rates are so heinous, people just aren't buying and selling. But we interestingly still have what's considered a housing crisis. There aren't enough houses for the demand, and people are having to, live in weird places and live with family, and it's kind of crazy. So, we'll see. So we have showings and hopefully we can get it sold. We're just trying to get into a housing situation that's better for our business because this house that I live in has stairs everywhere. It's actually 4 different levels. Um, so I have 10 steps up to my upstairs. I have 5 steps between the kitchen and the family room. And then I have um so that's the one level, and then there's that level, and then so actually it's technically 3 levels. Anyway, um, and then there are 9 steps down to my basement. And we just can't keep doing it because we're having to haul fabric bins up and downstairs to go to do anything, and it's driving us nuts, and we're getting old. We just can't do it anymore. So we're trying to get a better, one level type situation so that we can continue to do this business and not kill ourselves. So yeah, it's like that here, impossible in your market to farmer's daughter. Yeah. So but Utah is more balanced market right now. So of course when I'm trying to sell, it's not as crazy, which I mean it's probably overall better for everybody, but it's just frustrating when you're trying to sell your house and you have to wait longer than you normally would have. So, yeah, but it's only been on the market for like 25 days, so that's nothing. Yeah. All right, you guys, I need to go get my shipping done from last night. I hope this was helpful. Again, you can rewatch it on YouTube. My YouTube is in the show notes. Draz on Whatnot. Type it in with the ampersand so that you can find my YouTube channel and go to the lives. And this show will be there for you to rewatch if you need to rewatch it. Come next Tuesday. And since I don't have my treadmill, I'm not doing every Tuesday and Thursday. It's pointless. Come Tuesday morning and learn if I learned anything new. We do have a show tomorrow evening. It's our monthly community seller chat. We're going to be talking about production setup. That's the topic they gave us. So we're going to be talking about lighting, sound, equipment that you need kind of for new sellers. So if you would do me a solid and bookmark that show, it's this one right here with our mugs on it. And then again, if you haven't bookmarked my show today, um, authentic feed sacks. I mean, I had the video I put on this show, I counted 58 feed sack pieces, and some of them are the full bag, the original full bag. Look at the one with the teapots on it. Oh my gosh, so cute. All right, thanks you guys. Let's go find someone to raid. Have a wonderful day. Make it a wonderful day. Let's go see who we can raid into. How about let's go raid into our friend Cheap Girl Fabrics. She's live. Awesome friend. She also does seller chats and she is the queen of the flash sale. So here we go. Rating over to Lee.